welcome back. We have notes. You guys, I'm trying to be more organized because I feel like I could just hop on here and chat with you guys all day. But I'm trying to make sure I hit all my major points in these chakra episodes. So welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Madison. I am a medium and a Akashic Records reader, a Reiki master, and right now we're going through our chakra series. We are talking about the 7 chakras, what they are, how they work, what they do, all the things. Today we are talking about the third eye chakra, probably the most asked about. So the third eye is going to be literally right here where you would think a third eye would be. And this third eye chakra is going to be a huge thing that connects you to intuition, spiritual gifts, your clear senses, and this can be a really huge way that people, have their third eye opened and they go through awakenings, different things like that. So a lot of people think that your third eye chakra is only psychic gifts. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm not psychic, I don't have a third eye. That's not all it is. It's also your intuition. It's also your clear senses. And it's also just kind of your acknowledging how your body feels in situations. A lot of times we leave a situation and we're like, I wonder what they thought about me. But you haven't even stopped to check in with yourself and be like, how did I feel about that? Did I enjoy that interaction? Do I want to do that again? And so it's almost like taking a minute to check in with ourselves as opposed to always being worried about, external validation. So a lot of times people refer to your third eye chakra as where your sixth sense is held. We call them actually the clear senses. And so there are quite a few clear senses. The clear senses are extrasensory abilities. So for example, one of my gifts is I'm clairvoyant. So a lot of my downloads are very visual. So for example, if I go in and do an Akashic Records reading for you, whenever I kind of channel in, it's almost like I am sitting at a table and there's like books all around. I'm in this like library type room and there's this angelic being that I'm working with and she's bringing me books, and the books a lot of times have pictures or answers to questions or insight. And so for me, that's always been my biggest and my most strong gift is everything for me is very visual. As a kid, whenever my, gifts would show up, it would be very much me seeing spirits, me seeing people that were, sort of stuck spirits that were maybe trapped in a house I was in, or different things like that. So that's what clairvoyance is. It's whenever you see things. Clairaudient is when you hear things. I refer to these a lot of times as like podcast downloads. So it's almost like maybe you're getting thoughts or you're getting pings and like, you didn't put that in your head, but it's coming from somewhere. A really cool example of this is I did a meditation maybe last week, and one of the women that came, she was like, I was asking for like what I need to do next, and the only thing that kept coming through was divine connection, divine connection, divine connection. And I've really been feeling like I can't move any further because I haven't invested the time and energy in my relationship with the divine. And so like now's the time that like I actually have to do it. And so they're literally not letting me move forward until I kind of make time for that connection. So that's what it can look like. Then there are a lot of people that have what we call clairgustance, which is they might taste things. So I was doing a mediumship reading for a woman, and she wanted to connect with her great-grandmother, and she tasted while we were doing the reading this specific pie that her great-grandmother used to make that she hadn't tasted in like years and years. So that can be a way that your clear senses come through. Another thing is clear feeling. So sometimes people, they just feel things. So for example, maybe they're around somebody and they're like, I don't know, I just felt weird. That person's not for me. And that's kind of just how your body's way of letting you know. Another thing is smell. So for example, perfume and cigarette smoke or cigar smoke are 2 really big things that come through on this one. So if you are maybe missing your mom and you happen to like smell her perfume, that might be a good sign that, her spirit is nearby looking out for you. And same thing with like cigarette smoke or like cigar smoke. Those are normally really specific. Like some people will be like, oh yeah, whenever I miss my grandpa, I'll kind of like say like, hey grandpa, I miss you, like put it out to the universe, and then I'll smell a specific cigar that only he smoked. That's the way a lot of these things come through. So that's what we call our clear senses. So they're just different ways that the spirit realm is communicating with us. And so I always tell people whenever things like this happen, you are not crazy. You are just starting to experience a little bit more of the spiritual realm than maybe you have before. Okay, the third eye chakra is also a really cool way you can tap into ancestral guidance. So for example, if I want to, this is a crazy story, but I'll tell y'all, I have been connecting with an uncle of mine who passed because I've been trying to learn how to ski, and he was a really good skier. So every time I go and ski, I would be like, hey, Uncle Jimmy, will you come ski with me? This is like me as a medium to his angelic body. And he would come ski with me. And so it's almost like I started to get little downloads from him on like tips and tricks to do to make things better. And it's almost like that was kind of like that third eye work of connecting with, you know, angelic spirits and things like that. Specifically when it comes to ancestral guidance, because a lot of times we can tap in and we can find things out from our angels or from our spirit team. We just don't really know. So that was a crazy one. I was just like, hey, Uncle Jimmy, can you come help me ski better? And it worked, you guys. So you can ask your angel team for literally anything, it turns out, even help on the ski slopes. Okay, so when we trust and act on our intuition gets stronger. So think of it like a muscle. The more you work out your intuition muscle, the stronger it gets. So what this looks like is sometimes we have like really intuitive pings to do something or go somewhere, and we're like, I don't know, that's too weird, I'm not going to do it. And then it's almost like that thing keeps coming back and keeps coming back and keeps coming back until we lean into it. But then maybe the next time we get an intuitive ping, maybe it only has to come back twice before we lean into it, you know? So the more you start to lean into that intuition, the less scary it becomes, and ultimately the more confident you become in yourself, knowing that you do have that internal compass and that internal guide. So one way that you can sort of activate your third eye chakra is when we were talking about, if you watched the crown chakra episode, we were talking about affirmations for each chakra. So the affirmation for your third eye chakra is I see. So you could say, I see my future becoming clearer. I see my angel team working to support me. I see everything coming together for my good. I see a future where all things have worked out for me. I see a future that is financially abundant. I see a business that is successful. I see myself as a successful businesswoman, as a successful entrepreneur. I see that sort of energy is going to help to open your third eye and to remove any blocks there. Another way, this is actually an interesting tip of how to turn on and off your third eye. So, for example, let's say you're wanting to experiment more with your third eye, or let's say you're somebody who maybe when you go out in public, you can kind of like feel other people's energy, and maybe it's a little bit too much and you want to turn it off. So a trick is you go like this, and then 3 times clockwise signals that you want to turn on your third eye. And then 3 times counterclockwise symbolizes you want to turn off your third eye. I'm going to do it again just to keep mine open. But what I'll do sometimes is like, I am somebody who, I think a lot of empaths can relate to this. If I go in like a farmer's market, for example, the energy of everybody else is almost like so overwhelming to me that I kind of feel like suffocated. So I'll turn off my third eye when I go into situations like that. Same thing with like a thrift store. It's almost like the energy of everything is like so much. So that's a really cool tip if you're somebody who's just like an empath. I know sometimes people's spiritual gifts are awakening. They're like, this is cool, but I want to be able to turn it on and turn it off. You can't always completely turn it on and turn it off, but that's a good way to get you started. And that's something that I use in my really everyday practice. So let's talk about how the third eye chakra helps you to see past the physical. And it's interesting because we always know that all we're seeing is the surface. A great example of this is relationships. You may see the outside of somebody's relationship and think, man, things are going so good for them. But maybe things aren't going so good for them, and maybe you just don't see that because you only see the surface level. That's sort of what opening your third eye is like, is you've only been seeing the physical, and now you're seeing all of these other things that are happening behind the scenes. This could be angel numbers, synchronicities. I truly believe there's no such thing as coincidence, there's only synchronicities. So it could be you starting to see more synchronicities in life, more signs. Maybe you run into somebody you've been wanting to be able to have a conversation with. Maybe you always see 1111. Like, all of these things can be like signs that your intuition is opening up and you're tapping more into that spiritual side. So a big way that your third eye can get blocked is if you don't trust your intuition, you don't trust your gut. And this can happen, for me it happened personally. I lived in addiction for a long time. I'm actually a couple years sober, I'm in AA. And during that time period, I made a lot of bad decisions. So now I'm trying to trust myself to make good decisions, but there's still a little bit of doubt because I've made bad decisions in the past. And so it took me a long time to realize that not trusting my intuition now as a different person than I was making those decisions was keeping my third eye blocked. So that's just a really tangible way that you can start to see just blockages there with your third eye. And one thing you can do is, if you want to clear this, you can do like, I see my intuition coming in stronger, I trust my intuition, I trust my gut feelings, I trust my gut instinct. Those are some affirmations, but you can also do some intuition tests. So here's a way you can do this. Say you get an intuitive ping about something really crazy. Lean into it, go all the way in, see what happens. I bet something crazy will happen where you'll be like, wow, that turned out way better than I could have imagined. And then repeat. Just keep leaning into the intuition. Most of the time, the crazier your intuition is, the better. And by crazier, I don't mean like go to your ex's house at 4 a.m. That's not your intuition. I mean, maybe you need to stop and share your experience with this woman that you're passing and you have no idea why, but maybe she's going through something you've been through and you can share your story and your life and your experience with her. That's the kind of intuition I mean. And so the more you start to just kind of trust yourself, the more you strengthen that intuition and the more that third eye becomes open. One thing that could be a physical sign that your third eye is blocked is a lot of frontal headaches. A lot of frontal headaches are literally just this energy center here being stuck, being trapped, and then we just take ibuprofen thinking that'll make it. But really what you need is to trust in your intuition and to trust in your gut and to accept that, you know, you can make good decisions and you can lean on yourself, even if maybe you've made bad decisions in the past. You can always start over, especially with yourself and with your intuition. So one really cool thing that you can do in meditation, this is something you can do anytime, is you can set an intention to do a meditation to open up your third eye. And what I would do is I would set an intention with what you want to connect with in terms of inner wisdom. So maybe you want to connect with some ancestral wisdom. So you're going to go into that meditation, you're going to be like, okay, I want to open my third eye and I want to be able to connect with ancestral wisdom about motherhood. And you're going to see what comes through. That's just an example. You play with it however kind of resonates with you, but it's really big about, you know, intentionally seeking out, why do I want my third eye open? What am I wanting to do with this? Am I wanting this to reveal a person's true character to me? Am I wanting this to give me validation? Am I looking for a sign? What am I looking for? The more clear you are about that, the easier it is to decipher, you know, kind of what comes from the universe. So a really cool book I wanted to recommend if you want to read more about chakras is this chakra healing book. It talks about everything from how you can use meditation, yoga, crystals, essential oils, to behavioral changes and food and diet. So this has been a really cool book whenever I feel like I am like feeling a block somewhere and I can't figure it out, I'll start here. So this has been a really cool resource. I'll find it on Amazon and I'll link it in the show notes as well if you guys want to get it. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode on the third eye chakra. We will be back next talking about our throat chakra, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Happy